How's it going, nerds? This is Andrew for Disrupt It Yourself. Today I'm going to go ahead and respond to the 3D printing on YouTube hashtag. I wanted to thank XYXaiden for giving me a chance to do this, and wanted to thank Angus from Maker Muse and everyone else who's been involved in this. Really good idea, Angus. So if anyone wants to start one of these, I'm sure most of us would be more than willing to do this again with some other questions. A really good set of questions too, so let's go ahead and jump in. What is the first thing you 3D printed? I was able to kind of go back and look at some of the early things that I printed, and I'm very sad to say that I don't still have my first print. I'm kind of jealous that other people saved theirs. I really should have done that. My son probably threw it out a window or something, but the first thing I printed that wasn't for calibration was a Bulbasaur, some little low poly Bulbasaur that I found, because I'm a huge Nintendo nerd and kind of still like Pokemon. So I did a Bulbasaur, and then my next 3 prints I think were just bigger Bulbasaurs. So those were my first 3D prints, a bunch of Bulbasaur and Bulbasaur planters. But that was really fun, and it was exciting. It was something fun that I could print early on. It wasn't just a bunch of boring things. It was something that when I was done I could admire it, and it kind of motivated me to keep going. So I recommend, if you're just starting to print, find some stuff that you think is cool and print that instead of something boring. These next 2 questions are super hard, so I'm going to do my best. A popular 3D printer that you don't like. So this is hard because I haven't used every 3D printer out there, and I haven't even used a lot of the popular ones. Most of us have just kind of used the ones that we've had at our disposals, or the ones that we could afford, and we've kind of had our own experiences. But that being said, a popular 3D printer that I don't like, if I just had to pick one, it would probably be the XYZ DaVinci. I haven't had a ton of personal experience, but it's one of the few that I've used that I know for sure I probably just would never buy. It's a shame that Barnes & Noble is starting to sell those. But it's pretty much any printer like that where the company is just trying way too hard to control the experience for the user, trying to control the consumables. I mean, that goes for Stratasys and what they're probably trying to do with MakerBot. It's just, the industry is not going to progress, and the technology is going to be stifled by those kinds of philosophies. And it's happened before with other industries and other technologies. So I guess I more than just dislike those printers. I just would love to see them fail, because I think that would be bad. Or I guess I shouldn't say that. I'd like to see them change, because it's just not going to help the technology grow. People think, oh, if we make it really simple, we make our own filament so that they have to buy from us and we can make sure it's good. You know, that there's some truth behind that. I understand that. I work for a 3D printing company. I personally want people to use good software, good filament, and I can encourage people to do that. But encouraging them is one thing, and preventing them from buying things from other people. I mean, it would be like, there's the idea of chipping your filament so that your printer would reject filament that it's not supposed to use. I mean, imagine putting tires on your car that had DRM tires, and then your car said, no, I'm sorry, these are not made by Toyota, so you can't drive, you know? That would be ridiculous, and I don't think that keeps competition from growing, and then all that does is make sure that people don't improve. So if I'm a company that makes filament, then either I'll lose all my business, because if the industry starts to adapt to that kind of model, it's just not going to happen. I won't be able to sell to as many people, and that kind of competition is what makes people make that. That's why you can get affordable filament, you can get high-end filament. There's a whole spectrum of things there. So I don't like companies that are trying to do that, and I'd really like to see them adapt to a more positive model. Number 3 is a popular 3D printer that everyone seems to hate, but you love. Man, I could just about say that about any 3D printer, because we are a hateful bunch of people. Maybe not as much with other people, but nerds, we just love to promote the machine that we like and burn on everyone else's hardware. So I almost don't want to answer the question because it's just, but let's just call it personal opinion, right? I would have to say that, I think I said that right, but the third one is a popular 3D printer that everyone seems to hate that you love. I love my PrinterBot Simple Metal, and let me tell you why. Going along with what I just said, there was a time when I didn't want to use it. It just sat in the corner, and that was because I got a rigid bot, and I loved my rigid bot, and it was so much better. And for a while, all I was saying was, oh man, rigid bot, so much better. All these other printers, I guess what happens is when you get your first 3D printer and you don't have a lot of experience, then you move on to something better, and it's really easy to go back and be critical of the first machine that you used, because you forget that you've learned a lot as well. Now, going back to my PrinterBot, just with a little bit that I've learned, and I actually learned a ton from just working on my PrinterBot. My PrinterBot's actually a really good machine now that I have all this experience and kind of know what to look for. There's still a few things like, I feel like the printer board's not the best, a little buggy. I really would like a better power supply in the PrinterBot, and I hate the auto leveling probe. But that being said, it's actually a really good machine. So, there's probably more people that love the PrinterBot than hate it. So, maybe, like I said, it's all going to be opinion anyway. But the fourth question is, what is your must-have 3D printing gadget? Dremel. So this is the Dremel Micro. It's fun because you can just dock it and charge it. It's handheld, really easy to use, especially like if I'm working on something that's small. It's really easy for me to hold it in my hand. Maybe that's a bad practice, but it works. So I can actually work on a piece and it doesn't have a cable to tie me up. But yeah, I really like the Dremel. Great for friction welding, great for just cleaning things up. There's a ton of different things, and there's so many different tool heads that you can put on the Dremel that make it a very versatile tool. Definitely recommend one if you don't use it. Your best free or low-cost 3D printing software. This is going to be my most controversial answer. I would have to say my favorite low-cost software is Simplify 3D, and I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but Simplify 3D is actually low-cost software. Relative to open source software, no, because most open source software is free, well, I guess by definition, but the truth is $150 for that kind of software is actually really good, and there's just not a lot of paid software out there, so there's not a lot of competition. But if you've ever bought any software for anything else, I think you've probably spent a decent amount of money. If you've ever bought Adobe or like music software like DAW or whatever, design software, you can spend so much more money on decent software. And it's kind of funny that we're so used to Cura and Slicer and all these free programs. When something's $150, it seems like the market won't bear it. But the truth is, that's not. After a couple of years of using Simplify 3D, I have to say that it was worth every penny. So you can hate me for saying that, but I don't care. And then my best 3D printing tip. My best 3D printing tip is just to print. Print, 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 print. Don't get discouraged when your prints don't turn out well. Just don't be afraid to keep printing. Print as much as you can. Get some filament that you like that's not too expensive so you can buy a lot of it, especially early on. Just print as much as you can, because what you're doing is you're developing a skill. 3D printing, at least right now, and I'm sure it'll get easier and easier as the years go on, but it's more like baking than anything else. There's so many different things that you can tweak. So as you're printing and you have failures, if you've done a lot, it's a lot easier to look at a print and say, oh, I know what I need to do next time. Or you can stop a print and say, oh, well, this should have been a little bit hotter, or print a little bit slower. You get familiar with the different things that are going on. Kind of second what Angus said. Don't skimp on filament when you're trying to do something really nice. So it's nice to have something that you don't mind wasting, but make sure that you have some good filament around for when you want a print to turn out really good. And when you're having problems with a print, don't forget to try a different filament. If you've got a bunch of PLA and you've got a print going wrong, don't tear your machine apart until you've tried another filament to see if maybe that filament's just not as good as it was when you first bought it. So last thing to do, that was really fun. I really liked answering those questions. Now I just wanted to extend the challenge now to Robot Girl. I'll be sure to tag everyone here in the description for the video. Robot Girl Riley from Extreme 3D. I really want to see your response to this video, please. And then this is a little bit of a Hail Mary. I don't know if I'll get away with doing this, but I would really like Matt Griffin to respond to this, because I think that dude's just got so much insight on 3D printing, and his contributions to Make Magazine and some of the Make books about 3D printing have taught me a lot. So and his time at Adafruit, I learned a lot from him there, so I'd really like to see his response to this. And Matt, if you can't make a video, even if you could just type out your responses, and maybe we can get Adafruit to do a post about it, and we can just read what you have to say. I think that'd be really cool. So that's my video, guys. Thanks for watching. Please like it, subscribe. If you have any more questions about anything that I talked about here today, just go ahead and leave a comment, and I'd be happy to extend one of these topics or another topic into an entire video. So yeah, keep on making cool stuff, guys, and have a good one.